What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Modern Fatherhood Podcast. This is going to be the first interview we do for the show, and with me is present father off of TikTok. Uh, you want to just tell everybody who you are?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm present father. My name's Randy. I'm a father of five, blended family. So I biologically have two kids. I recently got into social media because of some custody issues that I was going through, being drugged to the mud and seeing how dads are, they get completely railroaded in court. And I know it's a dark time for dads. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to give back. I wanted to share my experience that I've learned and give that to other people that are going through it, maybe just starting out or they're midway through, so that I can help them out in their battles. So I'm all about building better dads and breaking cycles is my thing.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I definitely really resonated with your videos when I saw it because just talking to you, it sounds like me and you have gone through a lot of similar yeah, similar things when it comes to custody battles and uh,
Yeah,
just everything.
yeah,
And one of the main goals for the show, whenever I did it, was to help new dads and help single dads and dads that were gonna go and fight for custody and working dads, just help them and try to bring some value to their day and teach them things and help them along the way.
yeah, absolutely. It's something that I think about all the time, right? So, I'm 35 years old, so I'm a little bit later in the game, right? But I think about the younger dads, right? So say you're 19, you know, wait, you're 22, something like that. You're super young and you go through this, and not only do you not have life experience, but you don't have any money when it comes to
Yeah.
fighting court cases, in family court, hiring an attorney, even knowing what life's going to throw at you at that point. And I couldn't imagine being a young man going through something like that.
Yeah, it was, I know for me, that's that mindset, like the way you're thinking about it's the same way I do. And it's because I went through that at, 19
Yeah,
and had to had to figure it out quick.
yeah,
And it wasn't easy. It cost a lot of money. And thankfully I worked hard and got myself into a career path that allowed me to fight for custody. But I mean, it's hard and it's
yeah.
very expensive.
Yeah. So when you first started, you're going through the family court and stuff like that, did you have an attorney at that point?
Yes.
Yeah.
So the first thing I did was I went and talked to an attorney. And it was an attorney I already knew.
Mhm.
Um, and so my dad had used him when he fought for custody of me and my sister. Uh, so we already knew each other, and then I saw how good of a job he did, and I was just like, well, he already knows me, might as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he because he knew me and uh because he worked with my dad, and also I'm an Eagle Scout, and so is he. So it was like one of those Eagle Scout
Yeah. Yeah.
moments.
Got that
Uh
camaraderie there. Yeah.
yeah. Uh he was willing to accept my case, and it he's a legend. He's awesome.
Yeah. Well, and that's a good point too, is sometimes it's about using your network, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
To benefit your kids. Something that I think about too, you know what I mean? Leverage everything you can because when you're that's something that I want to say. So when you're a dad, and people say this all the time, I'm sure you heard it. I would die for my kids, right?
100%.
100%, right? All of us dads say that I would die for my kids, and then when it comes to family court, they don't.
Mhm.
They, they don't show up, or they're not willing to follow the court orders because they're pissed off and being bitter.
Yeah.
That's something that I've seen
I've
growing.
I've I've seen it. And I talked about it on the show, and I told him, I was just like, y'all have to put in the work.
Right.
When it comes to going to family court, you need to be respectful. You need to follow the court orders. You need
Mhm.
to dress to impress. Be respectful. Uh, don't be the bitter one. Don't feed into the toxicity of things. Follow your court order. Keep your head down. Don't freaking do drugs. Don't go
Yep.
out, get hammered, and get a DUI.
Hmm.
And I see that so much. I had people messaging me talking about, I was fighting for custody, but I failed a drug test for weed. And I was like, well, why were you smoking weed if you knew you were fighting for custody?
Right.
I was
Right.
like, that doesn't make sense to me. Especially when there's some of them they're like in Germany and it's like a major thing over there. Apparently, you fail a drug test, that's it. And It it doesn't make sense to me. And the amount of dads that I see that are like, I really, I want to do everything I can to get my kids. And then I'm like, okay, well, you need to not do drugs and not drink. And they're just like, well, maybe not that. I was just like, then you're not willing to do everything you need to for your kids, are you?
Yeah. If you can't give up a substance for your kids, but you say you're willing to die for them, you're not. You know what I mean? And
Right.
that's the thing.
It
That's the
does
thing.
it doesn't make sense.
You and I, we're for dads, 100%, right? But we're
Mm,
also gonna hold you accountable. If you're not owning your shit, we're gonna put you in your place. You know what I mean? You got to take care of your
exactly.
stuff, even if the court orders are so outrageous and it's false accusations that got those court orders in place. You still got to follow it because that's what the courts base everything off of. Is can you
To a
follow this
T.
court order? And if you can't follow this court order, how are you going to raise your kids? You know what I mean? And that's what they're looking at.
Yeah, it's especially true for dads because we kind of we have to prove that we're able to raise the kids. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
It's uh, a lot of times in family court, uh, you know, they immediately, most of the time, they immediately give the mom custody. A lot of times, and most of the time, it's they side with the moms, and that's why in a lot of states, most dads are just like, the only way I'm going to get custody if I prove she's an unfit mom. And then they're just like, well, is she an unfit mom? And they're like, no. And then I was like, all right, well then you need to step up your game and show that you can do the job to be a father. You're gonna have to prove that to court. It's not fair.
Hmm.
It shouldn't be that way. You shouldn't have to fight for your right to be a father or to be a father, but that's the way the court system is, and you're gonna have to follow it.
Yeah, no, you're right, 100%. And I will say that there's definitely a bias. You know what I mean? And
Oh
it's
yeah,
not just with the court system; it's with society in general. At least in the United States, where mothers are looked at, the nurturers, the caretakers, and stuff like that. And it's kind of an unfair bias. In my situation, that wasn't the case. I worked, and my ex-wife stayed home. Right, traditional American marriage. Right,
right,
but she stayed home, but she didn't do anything. You know what I mean? I got home and I made dinner, and I gave the kids a bath, and I tucked them in. And, so yeah, she was home, she was there. But I found out later after my divorce, she wasn't even taking care of the kids while she was home. And so, but it is a bias that, dads get painted as you're the provider, but you don't know anything about the kids. And that's something that we got to
right.
change.
Yeah, and it's something that is changing statistically. And I've talked about it before, where the amount of involved fathers has gone up by like insane amounts. And that includes, stay-at-home fathers and things of that nature. But, it used to be, and it's even depicted still, it's still in our movie culture and things of that, like that, where the dad would be the provider and the mom took care of everything. And, dads didn't change diapers and dads didn't do these things. But it's 2025, and that's not the case anymore.
Yeah, no.
It's not, the family dynamic doesn't really work that way. And I'm sure there are some that do, especially ones where households are like pink and blue and things of that nature. But if that's the way work things out in their relationships. But uh, I know at least for me, it was never like that. It was, oh, okay, that's my kid. I'm going to take care of it. Especially when I was a single father, it there's no one else there to do it for me. What do you think I'm going to do? Just not take care of them? No,
Right, right.
that's my kid.
Yeah, yeah. No, and especially if the other person isn't doing it, right?
Yeah,
So, yeah, us as fathers are traditionally providers, but we're also protectors. And
right.
so, if you have somebody that's not taking care of that child, fathers by nature, as protectors, are going to step into that role and do it without hesitation. And that's something that
100%.
can be overlooked. You know what I mean?
And I think that goes along with you and I both hear pretty often how dads are willing to do whatever, for their kids. They die for their kids.
Hmm.
But then you see a lot of them slipping on the little things.
Yeah, yeah,
And I think it's and like you've seen in court too, it's the little things that add up.
yep, yep.
It could be one big thing and it can be explained away, or the judge will be lenient on that one thing. But if he has a list of 20 little things that you messed up on, that's a lot bigger of an issue, because that means you're consistently not doing something
Yeah.
over and over and over again.
It's the totality of the circumstances is what it is. And unfortunately, and it's something that I don't agree with, but in family court, it's like a point system, right? So
Right.
the judges, they're taking notes, and whoever has the most points for them and against them, then they take those and they weigh them out, and then that's how they make their
Yep.
ruling. And I don't think it's a fair system.
Which it's not, and it's it's hard. How do I want to word this? The family court system's already corrupt as it is. Um, and the fact that they base everything off of these like calculations that they can do and these checklists and everything is pretty infuriating, because not every situation's the same.
Right, right.
And I feel like far too often uh things are just done incorrectly with family court, to include, my experience when my parents were divorcing, and my dad had to fight for custody. And even not everything, but the initial fight for custody for my son, there were a lot of things that just didn't sit well and didn't really make sense to me. And it wasn't until I had a folder, like that thick, full of evidence against her, that all of a sudden it was like, oh, he's the right choice. He's the guy the kid needs to be with. But it shouldn't take a folder mountain of evidence that big for me to have 100% rights to be a father to my son.
Dude, you're 100% correct. Um, think about that. Think about how much money that costs not only you but costs your children to come up with a
Hmm.
folder this thick to prove that you're a good dad. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah.
That's money that could have gone to your, if your kids wanted to go to college, if you wanted to take your kids on a vacation to build memories. You know what I mean? But instead,
Yeah.
you're having to get a folder this thick to prove that you're a fit father, to prove that you could be in your kid's life and that you're the best choice, and that's wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It shouldn't
100%.
be that way at all.
No, not at all.
And I'm not even in one of the harshest states when it comes to dads. Georgia's done hasn't always been great, but it's doing better. But there are some stories that I get where people are messaging me and telling me what family court's doing, and it's shocking.
Yeah, man, it's absolutely shocking. And Arizona's a 50-50 state. You know what I mean? Like they like to see 50-50 custody, which is good, and I agree with that. But on the other end, when the other parent doesn't deserve 50% custody because they aren't a fit parent, it's hard to prove
Mhm.
that because we're so pro 50-50. And if
Right.
you got two parents, I'm all for 50-50. That's the way it should be. If you got two parents The kid should have both parents, 100%. But
Right.
not. But just like you said earlier, not every case is like that. Every case, is way different. So
Yeah. Yeah, it is. And uh the other thing that a lot of dads uh what I see a lot is child support. They'll get these child support orders and they'll just be like, well, I shouldn't have to pay all that. And then they don't. And then they end up in jail.
yeah,
And now all of a sudden, the things they have to do to be a proper father to their kids, the laundry list doubles or triples.
yeah, yeah.
And then
Actually,
all of a sudden, now they have a record.
yeah. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about how family court and court orders can be a slippery slope, and it will snowball on you. Um,
Oh,
it doesn't
100%.
it doesn't matter if you agree with the order or not, but you have to make that because if you don't make this one thing at the top, it's going to roll and it's going to pick up another one, and it just keeps going. And pretty soon, you have an avalanche of stuff that you're fighting. You're not just fighting um, child support or one violation. You're fighting multiple things at one time while trying to pay an attorney to fight your child custody case, and it will overwhelm you. And I think that's where a lot of dads end up giving up. Because they made one bad choice
Yeah.
in the beginning and it snowballed into a bunch of other things, and they say, "Okay, I can't do this. I'm done." Which can
Yeah.
learn.
And it also, with states where the family court and the child support courts are separate, it can
Mm-hmm.
be even more hectic and crazy. Because you see some dads will talk about how uh, they went to court and they won custody, and the moms have nothing to do with the kids, but the mom had taken them to child support court. And because even though they won over here and it's a separate court, they're still having to pay, $2,000+ to the mom.
Yeah.
And they're trying to get court to go in there and revisit it, but it's taking forever. And they're just like, I can't afford to keep paying her child support and also take care of my kids full time because of the amount of money. But if I don't pay that, they'll garnish my wages and I'll end up in jail and then I'll lose my kids.
Right. Right. And that's one thing I'm fortunate to have here in Arizona is it's all in one court, right? And it's all in the same
Right.
case, and so they can look at that individually and make a determination, which is really good. Is that how it is in Georgia too?
So it's a little different. When you go to family court, they'll establish child support orders. They do the calculations and everything like that while you're uh even when you file for legitimization and it gets approved. And if you go in for court orders, both times I went, all three times into the courtroom, child support got renegotiated and they were able to do it right there. But also in Georgia, you can go and file for child support and get child support as long as they're on the birth certificate, which is another reason why legitimization came into play. But the legitimization doesn't go both ways. They can file for child support and get it as long as you're on the birth certificate, and then you could go get a DNA test to find out the baby isn't yours, and it won't matter
Wow.
because you're still going to be stuck paying that child support
So you
until
still got to
you
pay.
go to legitimization court and prove that you're not the dad. Because here we can, when you go to get legitimized, you can request a paternity test and
Mhm.
go through it that way and get yourself removed from the birth certificate.
So that's crazy, man. So you have to pay child support because you're on the birth certificate, right?
Mhm.
But you don't have any rights until you
Nope.
establish paternity, right?
Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
yeah, that's crazy, man. That doesn't make any sense.
Nope.
Hmm.
And that if you're married, it's different. But anybody that's not married, that's
Right,
what you
out of
got to do.
wedlock. Yeah, yeah.
Yep.
And that's how Arizona is as far as, if you have a child out of wedlock, you don't have any rights. Mom can leave and the kid's gone until you establish paternity.
Yeah. it's it's gotten better. I'll say it has gotten better.
Yeah.
Um, because at least in my area, it's gotten better. I can't speak for all of Georgia, but a lot of dads around here that I speak to that have reached out and I've talked to, a lot of them say that recently the two counties split. We used to have a judicial system for all three counties, and recently it's split and separated. And the county I live in is a lot more conservative, but also new. So there's a lot of new faces in there and younger attorneys and younger people,
Right.
and they're not putting up with the shit like the old timers at the other court were.
Yeah. Well, you guys have like 76 counties or something in Georgia. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, there's a
It's
lot.
insane. It's like every 20 miles you're in a new county. So in
Uh,
Arizona,
it's
we
pretty accurate.
yeah, yeah. So in Arizona, I think we have, I don't know, 12 counties maybe. You know what I mean? And it's a big
Dang,
state. You know?
I can I can drive to 12 counties in an hour.
Yeah.
And I'm
So the
talking
county
about
I live
going through them.
in, yeah, yeah. The county I live
Just
in,
just going just going to work. I go through five.
yeah. See what I mean? Yeah, it's different.
Yeah,
It's different. Here, the county I live in is 10,000 square miles, right? It's huge.
dang.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, back east, it's completely different. And I can't imagine the nightmare that creates as far as family court goes. Um,
Yeah, it does because I won custody, my son's under me, and I'm a resident of one county. The
mhm,
initial court case was in the old counties, and she lives in the old county.
yeah,
So now I had to file a new motion in the county I live in because we're residents here, and they had to bring the files from the old county, bring them over, and then bring them over, and then it has to be I don't revisited isn't kind of the word because it's new to that judge,
right, right.
but it's also not because the judge that's handling it also is handling all her other custody cases because she has a lot of kids now versus the one when me and her had our son, she had six more kids, and uh, I believe she has a custody case for all of them almost. And so the judge there was a case where the caretaker was there and she brought up my son. And so that judge is going to be taking over our case
Hmm.
because now it's all kind of in the same scope for that judge because the judge has already been dealing with her
Hmm.
as a part of the other court cases, and uh, it's a whole web of things now, and it's all across county.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that just creates a logistical nightmare. When So what happens
Oh
when
yeah.
one of you guys moves? You know what I mean? And you only move. Let's say you move 40 miles away and you're 8 counties away,
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, seriously, that
Yeah.
does happen. Like if say I moved uh let me try to think. Thankfully, we have like three of the biggest counties right around where I live, and I
Yeah.
could move an hour away to be closer to work. And not only would I be across state lines, but there would be six counties in between us.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. It's
So
crazy.
it can be a nightmare so fast.
Yeah. And I think that I will say I think Arizona's got it pretty dialed in, as far as that aspect goes. And I don't know if Georgia's the same way. So in Arizona, wherever you file divorce, right? So if you've lived there for 6 months, then wherever you file divorce, that's the jurisdictional court, right? So she moved away, but unless I move away, then this will always be like home base for our court cases and whatnot.
Yeah, it is that way.
Yeah,
Um, Yeah, just with the county splitting, the judicial system splitting,
Hmm.
and it being so many years since the case was put on hold
Right.
after I won the emergency order, it the case kind of got closed, so to speak. So whenever I filed a new motion over here, it reopened, so they had to bring those files with it.
Oh, okay. I got you. I got you.
But easily just as messy because the county that we originally filed in, uh, their court system is pretty busy because the crime over there is so high,
Uh,
which
yeah.
is crazy because it's, I mean, 25 minutes away,
So,
but it's just how it is around here.
so I want to get your opinion on something. So,
Okay.
earlier we were talking about how every situation's different, right? But
Right.
you kind of get some judges that are making rulings like they already kind of know what they're doing, right? But how do you fix that? Because they're still people, you know what I mean? They're still just people, and they're super overwhelmed because how many people that are how many people that have kids are splitting up every day in one county and going to court, you know what I mean? So I I feel like we're getting the short end of the stick, but I also understand that they're completely overwhelmed too, right?
Right. Yeah. I would agree. I think it comes down to it's going to have to be like almost like a reforming,
Hmm.
in my opinion, because there's not going to be able to be there's never going to be enough people to keep up with it.
Hmm.
Judicial systems are swamped, and it's a very hectic business and everything. And you
Yeah.
have these judges, and they sit in, and they'll have a docket slapped full of cases all day, and it's just people rolling in and rolling out. And
Yeah.
sometimes, it's cut and dry. It's just people coming in there to establish their custody agreement, or, like the legitimization here. Most of the time, it's a pretty quick process. You still have to pay money, but as long as it's not like they're not contending or fighting it, that's a pretty cut and dry thing.
Right. Right.
Um, but for cases where the dads are fighting,
Hmm.
um, I think maybe it should be a different section in the family court. Like you have your everyday events, legitimization, child support agreements, initial documentations for divorces and custody, especially when it's not contended and it's just 50-50.
Right.
But I feel like there should be some type of system where in the event that a judge is actually or it's actually going to be a custody battle, there should be a judge that is able to fully cover that case the entire time.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree. And
Where a lot of times you see where it's not like that. You'll go in for one case or one hearing, it'll be one judge. You come back in and they're like, oh, different judge this time.
yeah.
And it shouldn't be that way.
Yeah. No. I've been pretty fortunate, right? I've had the same judge throughout the whole process, right? Which is
Right,
beneficial because they understand everything that's gone on. Um,
right.
but having that said, she's got to be completely overwhelmed. You know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, they're just people too, right?
Yeah.
Uh, and and that's what worries you is that you're just kind of getting, kind of tossed to the side. I won't say tossed to the side, but like they're going to get jaded. They're going to get jaded. It's going to happen
Oh
because they're
yeah.
people. And so you just kind of get a blanket ruling that they've been doing forever, and I don't think that's fair. But the other thing I'm going to
I
say,
think another big part of that too is age.
yeah,
How long those judges are in those positions in the family court
right,
is
right,
absolutely outrageous. Because, like, so the judge that gave me and my sister to my mom, and which was the catalyst for a whole section of my life, I had to go through some shit, and
right,
I shouldn't have had to. It was because that judge didn't give my dad a chance. Gave my mom the alimony, the child support, everything she wanted. She grabbed us, left the state. even
Yeah.
though my dad was a completely fit dad. He's an amazing dad. And my mom, while she is a good person, at the time she wasn't fit to be solely responsible for us. In fact, my older siblings were really the ones that took care of us at that point because we were so young.
Right. Yeah.
Um, that same judge that did that to me as a child was the one that approved my emergency order for me to win custody of my son.
Yeah. Think about how many years gone by since then. Yeah.
Yeah, and he had been doing it for years before that, and he was doing it still until he retired 2 years ago. So you're
Yeah.
talking 20, 22 years just in my lifespan where he's been deciding cases and going through all that. And I already know of one instance where he just completely, they came in, gave everything to the mom and dismissed.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it shouldn't be like that. There should be a rotation for these judges so
Well,
that they don't get jaded, they remain unbiased, and it doesn't turn into a repetitive cycle of decisions for them. Because that judge actually got like people spoke out about his rule, and especially like whenever my mom had won custody of us, there was hundreds of decisions that people later on got overturned, and
hmm
it's because of those things where it was going into custody, mom gets everything, dad, you're stuck with the expenses, see you later.
yeah. So those actually got overturned.
Yeah, a lot of them did.
Yeah.
Like
So
I
think,
know for me and my sister, we actually once we turned 14, we actually went and signed paperwork in front of the judge and said we want to be with our dad.
yeah. So think about that. So you're talking about hundreds, if not thousands, of kids' lives that were affected for the rest of their lives because of that right there.
Mhm.
Right.
A lot of the things that uh a lot of the traumatic things that happened to me, and a lot of the bad things that have happened in my life
hmm
were in that 5-year span where I
Yeah.
wasn't with my dad.
Yep. And that's what terrifies
And
me about my kids, man. Right
yeah,
there.
100%.
Yep.
If my son was with his biological mom, I don't know if he would still be here
Right.
because of how bad things were and how bad things have gotten, and to the fact that she's had more children. The person she's married to literally got arrested
Yeah.
in their house and just weren't responsible. And I sit there and think, I was just like, if I hadn't fought, if I had left everything alone, not only was the old stepdad abusive, they were strung out on drugs. Um, what can you say about the new stepdad
Yeah.
when he has a whole court case about he was just in the I shit you not in the jail report, which is like our mugshot
Right. Right. Yeah.
newspaper
Yeah.
last week.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's
And
it's it's one of those things where how many kids got put in bad situations that a lot of them, what if they didn't make it out of because judges got compliant, biased, and jaded.
yeah. Yeah. No, you're 100% right. And I'm going to tell you right now, you're going to have some people that are listening to this. And when you said, I don't know if my kids, if I don't know if my kid would be alive today if I wasn't given custody. And there's going to be people that are going to say, this guy's being dramatic. I guarantee you,
There, there are.
yep, there's going to be people that say that. And
And you know what though? I hope that those people that think that are never in a situation where they have to think that like I did.
yeah, yeah. And I'm right there with you, man. 100%. That's what I worry about my kids. Um, and I'll be honest with you. I'll be honest with you. So before I went through my things, I've had people, that I worked with or friends with, and they're talking about, oh man, I'm really down. I'm in a bad place. I'm going through divorce, and I don't know if I'm going to have my kids. And I'll be honest, dude, I blew them off. I completely blew them off, and I was like, man, you got divorced, whatever. Like you're going to be fine. People get to go through this all the time.
Right.
And I wish that I still knew those people's phone numbers where I could get in contact with them and tell them that I am freaking sorry. because I
Yeah.
didn't walk in those
No,
shoes.
I understand what you mean
Yeah, I feel
because
terrible about that.
unless you go through it, it's hard to understand it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Which is also one of the reasons why the resources for dads going through it aren't there's really not that much.
There's really not. There's
Like
really not.
it's a shockingly small amount. And the thing that gets mixed in with it too is most of the time it's not dads like me and you that are just trying to help them or help, give advice, help them through a situation, answer any questions they have, or, just be there for them or help to inspire them or things of that nature. Most of the time it's tied into uh this bullshit idea of being like an alpha male or this uh what's that Andrew Tate shit. It's all tied up in that where you're the man of the
Oh
house and
yeah,
everything like that. And it's never focused on being the best dad you can be.
yeah,
It's tied into all this other shit that has nothing to do with how to truly be a good dad and the sacrifices you go through as a father. It's always tied into the wrong things.
yeah.
And
And
I
that,
feel like the teachings a lot of times are wrong too.
yeah, and I think that's why me and you resonate so well, is because me and you,
Mm.
our main interest is the best interest of the children, right? So we're all about the kids.
Right.
Uh, me and you, we don't care about getting revenge or what happened throughout the relationship that it didn't work out. Me and you are all about what's in the best interest of the kids. And I think a lot of
Right.
dads get caught up in, well, she did this, so I'm gonna retaliate by doing this. And all you do when you do that is you hurt your kids. That's it. That is
Exactly.
it.
Which
Sure.
I've talked about that extensively, and I've had to because these dads, they're talking about, and some moms have messaged me about it too. Oh, is that a popsicle? That's a crazy looking popsicle. No, don't get in the camera. No, don't put it on my phone either. Stop it.
Uh,
Okay, I'll blur them out. It's fine.
there you go.
Uh, a lot a lot of them are talking about. Well, actually, this is a serious conversation, so I don't know if you should sit here listening to me about it. Go in there with your mama, Bubba. Please. He's chilling over there. All right. Um, a lot of these dads are messaging me, and a couple moms too. They're just like, "Okay, well, we split up, and all of these things happen between us, and it's horrible, and we hate each other." And every time they start talking to me about that, I was just like, "None of that matters anymore."
No, it doesn't. And the court does not care.
How hurts they don't give a shit.
No, they do not care.
It doesn't matter how bad they hurt you. It doesn't matter what they did to you. It doesn't matter what they're doing to you now. All that
Mm-mm.
matters is the position your kids are in, how you're going to take care of them, the well-being of the children and the happiness of the children and the
Yep.
safety of the children.
Yep. And
Only the
education.
children
Yep.
matter.
Yep. That's all that matters.
The all I would say the only thing that matters out of that list that I said, where what they're doing to you now, the only reason that should matter is if you're compiling that evidence because you need to take care of it in court for the betterment of the kids, because it still comes back to the kids.
Right. Right. And that's something that I'll touch on there is, you know, you can bring that stuff up in court if you're trying to do it for the best interest of the children, right? Hey, this person
Right.
did this, and that shows that they're mentally unstable. So that absolutely will tie into why your kid should not be with that person. And I think that's something that
Right.
the dads kind of get lost in. They go down the rabbit hole of, well, she, I don't know, she doesn't clean the house, or stuff like that. And at the end of the day,
Yeah.
judges in the family court system, they don't care about the little things unless you can bring the totality of everything in front of them. But
Right.
if you just look like the bitter person that's trying to get revenge, it's going to show, and the judges are going to see that.
Every single time.
Yep.
And you see it a lot if you watch some of they're really catchy clips and stuff on TikTok and Facebook where it's like the child support court. You know what I'm talking
Yep.
about?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, you go in there and you see like the father's in there just being respectful and it's just court, or and sometimes vice versa where the mom's being respectful and the dad's not.
Right.
And as soon as that bitterness starts showing and everything, the judge just immediately calls them out. Sometimes the judge won't call you out like she does because that's obviously a show,
Right.
but
Right.
that's how it happens. It's so easy to see in those court settings
Mm-hmm.
who
Mm-hmm.
the bitter and angry person is.
Yeah. No. 100%. 100%. And it shows, and the judge picks up on that. And what they're saying is, if this person can't keep their composure in this setting, what are these children going through at home when they're acting out?
Yeah.
When they're
Yeah,
having a
what's going on behind closed
right,
doors?
right, exactly. And the judges understand that, and they're seeing that. And I'm telling you, the courts aren't as biased as people want to make them out to be. Because what I'm seeing is people are saying, "Oh, well, I'm a male, so that's why I didn't get custody of my kids."
Yeah, but they
And
didn't talk about the fact that they failed a drug test or they don't
right,
have a
right,
job or all these
right,
other things. I saw
exactly,
that I had a lot of people comments about that to me because they were, I posted a couple of videos and I was talking about how the family court system is biased, and then, I had a lot of women reach out and they were just like, well, it's not totally biased because X, Y, Z, and I was like, that is true. And I looked into it some more because those clips that I post are just small pieces of the show.
right,
Out
right,
of an hour long show, I have like 20-second clips.
right.
Um, so then I made some TikToks expressing the difference and calling out dads because I had dads that were sitting there talking about how, oh, the court system's biased. They won't let me see my kids except for supervised every other weekend. And I was just like, oh, okay, so why is that? And they were just like, well, I have a DUI. And I was just like, well,
Mm-hmm.
what do you want, man?
Yeah, yeah.
What if you had gotten that DUI with the kids in the car? What if you had wrecked? What if you had died? What if you were driving drunk and you hit a family full of kids? You are that
Yeah,
should, in my opinion, the court did right in that situation.
yeah,
It
and
it doesn't
that's something that I want to
it
say. You know what I mean? Just because you're a male, and it's easy to fall back on saying, "Well, I'm a male, and the court system's biased against males." Okay, I'm gonna give you this. In some instances, maybe that is true, right? I can definitely see that. But if you're making dumb decisions and doing dumb shit, and then you lose your kids because of that, that's on you. You made that decision, and that's something that you got to think about. And I think
100%.
a lot of guys get into that situation because it's the hardest time of your life, right? You're going through a divorce, or you're going through a breakup with your mother's children, and it's a hard time for a lot of people, and a lot of people make dumb decisions in that moment. But you can't blame the court
Yeah.
system for your decisions, because if your ex did the same thing that you did and went and got a DUI with the kids in the car, or got arrested for drugs, using drugs, or possessing drugs, or something like that, and then they got the kids, you're going to be just as pissed off as you are, and you can't blame the courts for that.
Yep.
If you're making dumb
Exactly.
decisions, I'm going to tell you right now, you're going to lose your kids, and that's on you. That's not on the court.
Yep. I did an episode about bettering yourself as a father.
Yeah.
Like once it was for a new dad that asked about how life changes once you become a dad. And I was talking about how there are things that you have to give up,
Right.
especially if you're going to be fighting in the court system, because
Right.
you have dads that it's one night stands and then they find out they're having a kid and they want to step up and fight for custody of that kid.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there's things that you now have to do. You have to make sure you have money income. You have to make sure you have a stable lifestyle, a stable home. the income to support a child put back. But you also have to make sure that you yourself are going to be the what's the word, fit parent for when
Right.
you go to that judge and you say, hey, I do want to be in the child's life. I want to be the full-time father. I would like 50-50. And, what if the judge looks at you and you say, okay, pass this drug test and you're good.
Yeah.
But you were smoking weed with your buddies while playing video games or something. That
Yeah.
stuff doesn't line up. There are sacrifices you do have to make. And I don't feel like it's a hard ass to not smoke weed or do drugs or, uh, if it's one thing to have a beer every now and then with dinner, but if you're drinking all the time or
Hmm.
things of that nature, that is something that you need to look at giving up.
Yeah.
And there's a difference between having a beer every now and then and having a drinking problem, and it's a very fine line that uh, can it differs wherever you go, whether you're talking about with a judge talking about it or a counselor, whoever you want to talk to. But if you go and she says, "Oh, well, he drinks a couple beers at the bar every night with dinner," that's going to look like a drinking problem.
Right.
Whereas
Right.
to a lot of people, it's, "Oh, he had a beer or two with dinner after a long day at work." A lot of blue collars, a lot of people that I know, they get off of work and they have a cold beer. The problem is a lot of times you take that cold beer and you turn it into six or
Yeah.
eight or 10,
Yeah. Yeah.
and
And then it becomes an
that's
eight
not a
pack.
stable habit.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%, man.
Exactly, which
100%.
is why when my son Liam was born, I quit drinking.
Yeah.
And that was one of the reasons because it was such a fine line between, I would say, okay, I'm gonna have a beer or two after work, and then I'd be around all my friends, and next thing I know, I drank a 12 pack.
Right.
It wasn't a good, healthy thing to do. And
Well, and
it
I'm proud of
once I quit drinking and reflected, it made me a better dad, and it did help me uh, grow as a dad and as a
you.
person.
Yeah.
And I feel way healthier too.
Well, I'm proud of you, man, for realizing, hey, you know what? This might not be in the best interest of my child. You know what I mean? I think this could end up being a problem later. I'm done with it. You know what I mean? And it probably wasn't easy,
Yeah.
right? Because you enjoyed having those beers after work. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
But
Yeah,
but
it was great.
but you made the decision. Hey, my kids are more important, and I'm proud of you for that.
They are. Thanks, man. The
Yeah,
kids, the kids are the most important thing
yeah,
always.
100%.
And I've said it, the kids are more important than the alcohol, they're more important than their weed, they're more important than the drugs. Every every situation that you're going to go through as a father and the stress, the weight, and everything like that, it's temporary. And
Yeah,
that temporary relief of stress from a temporary situation isn't worth the permanent loss of your children.
yep, yep. And I think that dads need to realize that pain is temporary, and you're not always going to be feeling the way that you feel in the initial breakup or the initial divorce. Um, and it's important to not make bad decisions in that time because those are the decisions that can literally impact your custody case throughout the entire process. You make one
So fast.
mistake, yep, one mistake, and it can literally cost you your children. So when you break
And
up with somebody,
uh,
go ahead.
especially when it comes to anger,
Yeah.
it's so easy, especially if it's one of those situations like mine where they cheated and they moved on immediately, or they
Hmm.
moved on while we were still in a relationship. You know what I mean? It's it's easy to have a lot of resentment and bitterness, especially in my case. I told you about, everything that happened. It's so easy to have a lot of anger and resentment, especially as a 19-year-old, boy, because at 19, you're a boy. You're not there yet.
Yeah,
And
you don't know anything about life yet.
you don't know shit at 19. And there was a specific situation where everyone clashed, and the girl I was with at the time, the girl, my son's mom, and the guy she was with all started yelling at each other. It was about to blow up.
Oof.
and I did it,
Yeah.
but it wasn't worth it in that moment because he wasn't going to do anything. Let's
Man.
let's just leave it at that. But
Right.
and whenever I brought that up in court, because part of the emotion was I don't want this man around my kid. Here's a situation where he was also violent, and the judge said okay.
Yeah.
And that
Sounds
was
good.
one of the things was when he did visit at first, whenever there was visitation ordered, that man was no longer allowed to be present.
Right. Right.
But
Yeah.
you can see just that, and I'm not the one that did it. I'm not breaking it down from my perspective. It was someone else in my court case where that one moment of bad decision and anger completely altered the way the case went for them.
Yeah. Exactly. And that brings up another good point is you got to be careful who you have around when you're going through something like this, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Because you're going to be judged on who's hanging around you, who's living in your house, all that
Oh yeah.
stuff. It's going to come into play. I promise you. If you go through a high conflict divorce case or child custody case, you are going to have to explain to everybody that lives in your house and their backgrounds. If you're hanging around bad people, it's going to come up. I promise.
Okay, it gave me a moment to drink some coffee. My
There
throat
you
was
go.
starting to get scratchy.
Mine too.
Oh man.
So, what do you want to touch on your story?
Yeah. So I've talked about it a little bit before. I don't think I've ever quite broke it down. Um, but I've talked about how I was a young dad. So I had my oldest son, I had him at 19. And like I just said, at 19, you really don't know anything.
Yeah, yeah,
But
super young man.
fortunately, yeah, fortunately, I had always been somebody that worked a lot already.
Hmm.
And because of my Eagle Scout, I was able to land myself in a really good career that I'm still in today and likely will be the rest of my life.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome,
Because,
man.
like,
That led this to
oh, yeah.
like career. You know what I mean? From Boy Scouts straight into adulthood. That's awesome.
Yeah, yeah. The things they say about the Eagle Scout are true, for
Yeah,
sure. It does help you in life if you take it seriously. And did I always take it seriously? No, but my dad knew better, and my dad pushed me to get it, and I did. And now I work at the same place my dad does. Uh, and it's allowed me to uh fight for custody and everything like that. And I'm able to provide a very good life to my kids, and I'm very
heck yeah.
thankful for it. Um, so I had him at 19, and not even 2 months after he was born, me and his mom broke up, and she was with another man. And then not long after that, she was pregnant with another baby. And for the first couple months of his life, I wasn't able to be there. And it was a mixture of me being 19 and being dumb and
Mm.
not pushing as hard as I probably should have all the time. Because, in my opinion, I should have been texting and pushing every single day, but I was also working every single day and I was a technician at the time. So I was busy and working in the shop and I wasn't balancing everything.
Hmm.
So I really didn't handle it as well as I should have because there was also a lot of bitterness and resentment in the very beginning there as well.
Sure,
Um,
sure,
and but eventually I was like, okay, enough is enough. We need to figure this out. That's my son. And because of all of it, I missed his first Halloween. I missed the first few holidays and missing that stuff sucked. It sucked. And finally I'd had enough and I was like, look, we have to move past that. We're gonna have to move past this. We need to do the best we can for him, even though we're not together. And we worked it out to where we were able to split things up and work through it.
Let, let me
And it,
let me ask you something real quick because I'm curious about this. Now you said that the holidays, missing the holidays and stuff really tore you up. Is that because you remember that from your childhood, coming from being divorced? Is that something that resonated with you and remembering how you felt as a kid on those holidays?
I know, I've never once thought about that,
Yeah, yeah,
but I would say, yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Thinking about it, I would definitely say that's a big part of it.
Right,
Um, because when my parents divorced, after it was finalized, our mom picked us up and moved us to a whole different state,
right,
and uh, I saw my dad during the summertime,
right.
and it was hard. And yeah, I would definitely say that. I hate because of that. It's also affected me in other ways, like how much I despise missing first things,
Right.
like first time things, which is as it's caused me to not handle things as well when it comes to missing out on first things. Uh, I mean, it's even caused conflicts between me and the kid's mom because I take it so personally, um, to the point where sometimes the way I'm feeling doesn't even make sense about it.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
it'll be a first time thing, and it's such a small thing, but to me in that moment, it's like the biggest thing in the world that I missed.
right. And that
So
that probably comes
yeah,
from your childhood. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. That was a damn good question. Shit.
yeah. So that's that generational healing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure, definitely. Um, but we had things worked out really well. And as he got older, we put him in a I put him in a private Christian school here, and he was learning, and everything was going really well. Um, and then he was about 2.5. I would say it was about 2.5 when the abuse and things started coming to light. Uh, and it was it was a very difficult time period.
Hmm.
Because once I found out about it, I was just like, okay, he's not going back.
Yeah.
Um, and this is after, I talked to you about the surgery he had to go through. This is after the fact.
Okay. Okay.
So he had to have that surgery, and I mean it wasn't even a day after he had that surgery. Had a drain tube in and everything. He came back to me and he wasn't as clean as he should be, and things like that. So things deteriorated really fast. And
Sure. Sure.
it's an amazing point because I wouldn't have been able to I wouldn't have been able to do it without the partner that came into my life. Uh, my she completely came in and took over the mom role for Damon.
Hmm.
Um, to the point where besides a lot of the traumatic things he's going through and like the things he remembers, and especially as he gets older and he unlocks more of it with therapy, um, she came into my life and immediately loved that boy like he was her own.
Yeah.
And that is a huge part of how things worked because where I had a really big heart and I was willing to forgive in my head, or I didn't look at it the way I should have been,
Hmm.
she was also there saying, "Hey, no, let's look at this. This isn't right." And uh no, uh look at things from a different perspective other than me who had been in that situation for so long.
Yeah.
Um and it really changed the way the entire situation went because I had a huge support system behind me with her and her family, and I can honestly say it would have gone. it probably would have gone way different if I hadn't had her and her family backing me the way they did. Um, and just constantly giving me the reassurance and telling me, you're doing the right thing. Uh,
And
because
also, and also
I always it was always like a benefit of a doubt situation in
it's
my head.
always
Like I'm seeing it, but is that the way it is? And they were just like, yeah, yeah, that you can't really look at that any other way. You just want to believe that's not what's happening.
yeah, and it's always good to have those people to bounce those things off of, right?
Yeah.
Because when you're going through this, your emotions are so high, and you can
Oh
make
yeah.
bad decisions based off emotion. And it's good to have somebody that's level headed. You know, I mean, she might be a little bit emotional because she's attached to you and seeing how you're hurting. So she might be a little bit emotional, but her family, they're going to be level headed. You know what I mean? Sure,
Yeah.
they, they,
They were 100% in it for
yeah,
the well-being of my son.
and that's so important. So
Because
important.
they did the same thing. Me and her started dating. Uh, Everything was going on, and immediately they were just like, "Y'all are family." They met him and they loved him immediately, and they are an amazing family, and they're a huge part of his life and our
Yeah,
lives. Um, and it definitely was a huge factor in keeping the course and going through the fight
yeah,
was having that support system behind me.
right. Absolutely, absolutely.
And that led to, fighting for custody, the initial temporary agreement, the uh permanent agreement where it was 50-50 with her being the sole decision maker and everything. And then there was the other one where I that was the one with the surgery that I told you about, um, where I became the primary and had sole medical custody or sole medical decision making and things like that. And then eventually it turned into the emergency order when he told us about being the things that he was going through over there.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, and it was I still remember the day, October 4th, 2020. I said he's not coming back to you. And I told him he didn't have to go back, and I never made him. He hasn't. Um,
Good for you, man.
and yeah, he's such a bright kid. He's so smart. He's amazing. And like I said earlier, if we hadn't got him out of there, I can't sit here and tell you he would still be here.
Yeah.
And I told you more in depth about the things that were going on, but it was really bad, and it did spiral more on that side of things too. Um,
Well, imagine
Eternally thankful.
imagine if he had two shitty parents and not just one. You know what I mean? And
Yeah,
think about how
yeah,
many kids are in that situation where you got two shitty parents. You know what I mean?
for
And
sure.
if you're a kid, you're just picking the better of the shittiest. You know what I mean? And that's sad. That's super
Yeah,
sad about.
it is.
So
It definitely is.
your kid is super super lucky to have you in their life, man. Super lucky.
Thanks, man.
Yeah.
I really appreciate it. Your kids are too, dude. You're doing the thing,
Yeah, 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 yeah. We're working on it. You know what I mean? We're getting there. We're getting there.
one step at a time.
Yep. It's just improve
Stay the
one thing,
course. Keep fighting the fight.
one little thing a day. You know what I mean? That'll get you there.
It definitely will. Um, Later on down the road, I had one custody of him, and uh, then we found out we were going to have our other son, Liam. We had Liam. He's amazing, super smart kid. And now we have Poppy Grace, who is my daughter, who's about to be 2. Uh, and the story's really happy from there.
Good. Good.
Built a life for the family, and it's good and loving it.
Glad to hear it.
But yeah, but it's I don't honestly I don't know if I would cherish it as much and recognize how good what I have now is if I hadn't gone through those things. And I feel like a lot of fathers and dads take it for granted what they have,
Hmm.
and they don't realize. I don't think a lot of them realize what they have.
Yeah, yeah. I that's something I look at all the time, and and I think I'm jaded though because I see two. You got a mom and you got a dad, right? And they've been divorced, or sorry, they've been married forever, right? So you got a mom and dad, they've been married forever, and they're going to baseball games together, going to basketball games together, karate, dance recitals, like you know what I mean. And that kid gets both their parents, right? And I'm not going to sit here and lie to you, like that's something that I
Right.
definitely would like for my kids, to experience. Um, but then I catch myself thinking, nah, they're not happy. They're just putting on a show. You know what I mean? And that's wrong of me to think that way because they probably are happy. You know what I mean? But I'm basing it off of what I've been through, and that's something that I'm working on. Is not looking at the world as every relationship's bad or they got issues going on. But no, I can
Yeah.
definitely relate to what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying with that though, because it especially when you're going through it, it's hard. It, like you said, it's hard to see other people in those situations and not think that there's actually a negative undertone to it that you just can't
Right.
see right
Right.
then.
Yeah. And that's not a good way to think. That's one of my many imperfections. You know what I mean? Is that I'm jaded, so I look at relationships as nah, there's something going on there. They're not happy. It's all for show.
Yeah,
That's not. It's not.
for
That's not
sure.
think that way.
No, but it's hard not to sometimes. I definitely agree with that.
Yeah. So what's
I already added myself on TikTok. Dude, these Starbucks frappuccinos are so good. They're so good.
so good. So my
This is my second one today.
my oldest daughter, she's gonna be 16 coming up, and she just got her first job. She's working at Starbucks, and so but she's like in training and
Oh
stuff right.
yeah.
Yeah, I can't wait till she gets like where she can start bringing some stuff home. So they're dabbling in that,
Oh
dude.
yeah. Oh,
She
dude, if my daughter worked at Starbucks, I would be like every day. I'd be like, Frappuccino,
Yeah,
come
yeah.
on.
Hook it up. Hook it up. Hey, what'd you make per hour like at your first like high school job?
Oh God. So before I got a W-2 job, I did labor and farm work.
Yeah.
So and that was through family. So I don't really count the money I made with that one because it was definitely
Right.
more than I should have been.
Yeah, yeah.
But my first W-2 job, I was 15. It was Papa John's, and I made 7.25.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I think I made 5.25 an hour at my first job, right? And my
Yeah,
oldest daughter, she's making $15 an hour, and she's 15 years old. It's crazy.
that's a lot of money for a teenager.
Yeah, yeah. She's working like I don't know, a few hours a week, and she's getting checks for like 160
Yeah,
bucks. I'm like, what the heck? But good for her.
damn,
Good,
I could work 40 hours and make that much.
right? I hear you.
I remember $60 paychecks in high school.
Yeah. And you thought you were high on the hog there,
Yeah, I'd fill up my truck and find someone to, well, get buy the beer I wasn't supposed to be having.
right?
That was all my paychecks went to in high school.
For
That was
sure.
it.
Yep. I was getting cigarettes, beer, and gas. That was all I
That
needed.
was that was the priorities then.
Yep. Yep.
Which
It's like,
it yeah, no, yeah, that was all my money went to in high school.
well, I remember my mom would she'd give me $5 for lunch, right? She'd give me $5 a day so I could get lunch. And I just wouldn't eat. I'd use that $5 and buy cigarettes. But cigarettes were like five and some change, right? So I like have to like
Yeah.
scrounge around, look for some change to come up with, so I could like cover that change part of that. I told her
Yeah.
that. I told her that recently, and she was pissed. But that's probably why when I was in high
Uh,
school, I was like 135 pounds.
oh yeah, yeah. I middle school. That's how it was for me because I was a delinquent and I was smoking cigarettes already and doing all sorts of shit I shouldn't have been. Uh, but high school, that's when I got into wrestling and weightlifting and things like that.
Yeah.
And it did bite me in the butt once I became an adult though, because I was still eating like I was working out that much.
Yeah.
And next thing I knew, especially once I had kids, I was like a weekend away from 300 pounds. And there was other medical things in there about it, but yeah, I had to figure
Yeah.
that out real quick. I was like,
Yeah.
oh, can't do it.
Can't eat this much if I'm not
It
burning any
got it got
calories.
bad.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, back then I'd go to hibachi or like a Japanese steakhouse and I'd eat the whole plate. Now I might eat like an eighth of it. I can't do it.
No, I'm with you, man. I think I
Yeah,
eat like
Japanese is my weakness.
I think I eat like once a day now. You know what I mean?
Oh
Just
yeah. Yeah, that's
metabolism slowed
about me.
way down.
Yeah, well, a big thing for me was also I actually got on TRT.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
That
TRT
helped.
is game. Oh yeah. Oh my God, game changing.
So I've been wanting to
Because
do
my
that, but I'm worried about the side effects, right? Like, like I've read some bad stuff about it, and I know that's on the internet, and I mean, who
yeah,
knows what's true and not what's not true, but it does worry me.
yeah. A lot of times the problem is you'll get like a cookie cutter program. So you have guys that'll go into this TRT clinic or something, and they'll be like, "All right, yeah, you have low testosterone. Let's put you on 200 milligrams of testosterone, and here's an AI, and just start at it." And it's really not supposed to be that way. I went through a company, and they started me way lower. There was more frequent blood work, and we slowly worked our way up until I was at a point where my levels were good, and I had some side effects, but it was mainly like acne. I
Yeah,
had some acne on my back, and that's really it
yeah,
for me. You have guys that do it and they take it and they don't have an AI aromatase inhibitor on hand, or they'll ignore it and then they'll start developing gyno. But it if you have the right doctor that can cover it properly with you and work through it, absolute game changer.
well, and then that's my problem about going to some of these companies. You know what I mean? Where they're like, "Oh yeah, you're going to talk to a doctor," and I'm like, "Yeah, a doctor that you employ, who you're absolutely telling, hey, go ahead and prescribe this as much as possible." And so, like,
Yeah,
I'm one of those people. Like, I don't take ibuprofen unless I need it, right? Like, you know what I
right.
mean? I just don't believe in putting that stuff in my body, and so like I've been worried about like these big companies that yeah they have doctors that work for them. You know what I mean? And so,
Yeah,
um, but I think I would benefit from it. But I just need to find some place that is legitimate about it. You know what I mean? Like they're going to tell me you don't need it if I don't need it. You know what I mean? And they're not just looking at making a
right.
couple bucks off of it.
I mean, the easiest way to do it is go to like your primary care doctor
Yeah,
and just ask for a full blood workup, like the whole nine. You just say you want a full blood panel done, and then just make sure you have your total and free testosterone, your FSH and LSH all
yeah,
tested, and that'll give you a good picture of what your endocrine system's doing. What's up, buddy?
right.
Do you have a good day at school? Yeah, glad it's the weekend. I bet you are. The what bunny? The redder bunny. Oh, really? You go in there with David? You go in there with David? I love you. Yeah, what? The weather bunny. Yeah. I thought he was saying the red man bunny or something. The weather bunny. Oh, all right. I was hearing that completely wrong.
There you go.
I have the conversational awareness turned off on my AirPods, and
So you
so I
weren't
was
hearing nothing.
getting glimpses, but it wasn't. Yeah, I wasn't. I just heard. I heard red bunny. That's all I
Yeah,
heard. I was wrong.
that's funny.
But
Was
yeah,
there?
I would go to your primary care and get full blood work done, and get all that checked out, because then you could have that initial baseline of everything,
Yeah, yeah,
and if any of those numbers are low, then you can get your doctor's opinion, and you could also get another doctor's opinion because you already have that blood work. So then you only have
right,
to pay for like a consultation versus going out
right,
of pocket for more blood work from another doctor.
right, right. Yeah, no, that makes sense. Yeah, heck yeah. Oh, that's good advice. I'm gonna do that. But you notice a big difference.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Oh,
good.
huge difference. Yeah. I before I was tired all the time, euphoric. I couldn't really lose weight. There was other factors to that for me too, but it definitely changed once I was on testosterone. Um, Brain fog, motivation, all those things were lacking.
Hmm.
And results in the gym, even though I was eating the right macros and things like that, results were not there. Um, I wasn't able to lift very heavy, even though I had those years of powerlifting and things like that. I had the weightlifting knowledge and experience.
Right.
Um, and recovery was trash, and just so many different things. And now I don't struggle with any of that
Yeah, heck
at
yeah.
all. It also really helped my mental health,
You're okay. Heck
which
yeah.
is something that a lot of people don't recognize. There's a lot of men you'll see that, and they talk about it, especially on like the TRT community podcast and a couple others. But there are men that have low testosterone and don't know it, that are on like SSRIs and antidepressant meds and anti-anxiety meds, and it's low testosterone and their body not functioning properly. And then
Hmm.
once they get on testosterone and they get to those optimal levels and they start doing, they have their motivation back, the brain fog's gone, uh, they're feeling healthier and they're better. Over time, they don't need those SSRIs anymore.
Right. Right. No.
It
Exactly.
it's actually pretty amazing.
Yeah. No. That's fantastic. Um, I'm gonna look into that. I think that would help me out a lot.
Yeah, for sure. A really good company, and I've talked about it on my podcast before. Matrix Hormones.
Yeah.
They are top tier. Um, they're based out of Florida. The TRT Community Podcast is actually hosted by Brandon, who now he was working for Matrix after the fact. He wasn't at first with the podcast, but eventually he started to, and now he also has like peptide stuff. Um, but he uh he had the TRT community podcast, and he's where I heard about matrix hormones. And even Chris and the To Be Better podcast, even he goes to matrix hormones too, because I don't remember if I heard about it from Chris or if I said something to Chris or what back then, because I know we had talked about it in the men's group before, uh, but I think he was going to someone else, and then he talked about it, and I had already been listening to the TRT community, and then Chris started talking about it. I think that's whenever I went over to Matrix, but I can't really remember. Um, but even he goes, and they're top tier, and they're with you every step of the way. They go over your blood work in depth. They're always there to talk to you if you have questions or you're having a symptom and you want to talk about it. they're
Right.
they're top tier TRT and hormone specialists.
Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna check them out, man, for sure. Yeah. Heck yeah.
Yeah, I they're awesome.
Yeah. Sweet.
So, uh, tell me about your book.
So give me a second because it actually fell off my shelf. So check this out. So this is a guy that I actually just recently got in contact with. His name's David Pissarra. So he is an attorney out of LA, big father's rights advocate. And he's got e-courses on his website. He's got this book for sale. You can grab it right here. If you go on my bio, click the link. His book's in there. You can get it in my showcase too. You can also get his e-courses in there. But he's been an attorney for 27 years, and he focuses solely on father's rights. Um, and what I like about him is that he's not in it for the money. He's in it for helping dads out, and he's a legitimate attorney. And the good thing about him is he's just a real person. Like, if you got questions or something like that, he gives it to you in layman terms. So you know what I mean. Like he'll tell you, yeah, you're being a fucking idiot. He'll give it to you like that.
You
Or
need that in a lawyer,
yeah, yeah, you don't get the jargon that comes with lawyers. You can't even understand if you email him. You know what I mean? Like he tells you straight up how it
right?
is. But yeah, he wrote this book, and why I really wanted to do this is to educate myself, because in this book right here, it teaches you like the basics of representing yourself and how to do that. And that's something that I can't speak to because I've always been fortunate enough to have an attorney. But I get
Right.
so many of my followers that message me, and they say, "Hey, so I don't have the money for an attorney. What do you recommend?" And so I started doing research. And I mean, I did a lot of research and I came across David's stuff right here and I connected with him and we've been talking. And, I've been through his e course, I've read the book, and it's solid. And it's new. This is something that I'm really going to start pushing out to my followers is this book right here. If you cannot afford an attorney, this is what I recommend right here. You can get it at my showcase on TikTok. You can get it in my bio. I'm on TikTok, I'm on Instagram, and I'm on Facebook. So that's something that I'm going to start pushing out to people so that we can help people that can't afford an attorney but might be able to, afford a $40 book that might help them out and keep them in
Yeah,
contact with
for sure.
kids. So um, that's something that I've been working on. So yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
even if you can afford an attorney, that book probably has a lot of good pointers for
Oh,
how to
it does, man.
conduct yourself in court.
Yeah, yeah. So it's Dad's child custody action plan. So it's like insider secrets that he's learned in 27 years of how to deal with family court. So it goes over everything you need to know. And he's got VIP courses on his website, and he's got the e course on there too, and he does like live meetings. I think it's every Tuesday where you can do questions and answers. So it's just like good way for people that can't afford an attorney to connect with an attorney and educate themselves in the process. So it's just an alternative to, because I hate telling people they're like, hey, I got this, and this going on. And I'm like, all right, well, you need to get an attorney. And they're like, yeah, can't do that. Like, it's not possible. And so this is what I recommend right here. Get the book, do his courses, go to his website. It's dadslawyerschool.com. So, check him out. He's a great dude. Great dude.
Yeah, that sounds really valuable for a lot of dads. Even I would say something like that is one of the most valuable things, like you said, because a lot of dads can't afford attorneys, and
Mm-hmm.
thankfully I was able to, and you know. But
Yeah.
even with that, one of the big things that people make mistakes on is how to conduct themselves in court, and also how to conduct themselves prior to court.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
That's
Absolutely.
a
Well,
lot of
well,
a lot of guys screw up there.
let me ask you this. So you had a child at 19, right? And you had to fight for your
Mhm.
kid. So imagine
Right.
not being able to have an attorney or family support or anything like that, and you do it by yourself. I couldn't imagine. I couldn't imagine.
I I can't.
Right. So I mean, say
No,
you're
especially not at 19.
right. say you're a 19-year-old male and your family doesn't care about you, and you end up getting pregnant another female, and her family's involved, and they're funding her attorney bill, but maybe you're the better parent, but you can't afford an attorney, and you have no idea what you're doing. You're going to get railroaded, and that's sad.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
it is. That's one of the bad parts about the family court system for
Hmm.
sure.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I would definitely say there's a lot of value in that book. That's one of the reasons why I wanted to ask you about it. Because I saw you talk about it and I saw a couple different things about it and I saw it on your bio and I went and looked it up while I was at work.
Yeah.
And it's one of the things that I think a lot of people need to read and that a lot of people could find value in
Yeah.
because one of the biggest mistakes that I hear from a lot of dads is, uh, we were fighting and I didn't document everything, or she said this, this, and this, but I don't have proof of it. But then she brings screenshots of the other side of the conversation, or they come to court and she's being bitter and petty, or their attorney saying something, and all of a sudden you have a big outburst in court, things
Yeah.
like that. Those are things that you have to be aware of and that you have to be prepared for because court gets nasty.
Yeah. And people don't
There,
realize that. You know what I mean? And I think a lot of people say, I'm a good person. I'm going to go in there and talk to the judge, and they're going to understand that. And that's not how it works. When you get
not
into when you get into the rules of discovery and the procedures you got to go through and stuff like that, you don't just get to walk in there and talk to the judge like a person and be like, "Hey, look at me.
right.
Like I'm a good person, and I'm here, and I want to do what's best for my kids." And just have a conversation. That's not how it works. You have to prepare yourself.
People also have to be cognizant of the image they present when they go into the courtroom.
100%.
So like I live in the Bible Belt South. I'm a pagan and I have a pentagram hand tattoo and demon skull tattoos all over my arm
Hmm.
and another demon on this arm. And I have big holes in my ears and nose ring. If I go into court say, even if I wore khakis and a nice button-up short shirt with short sleeves, but I still had, my gauges and my outward appearance and everything, I would just look like a well-dressed delinquent.
Right.
And it's just a fact of the way that
Yeah.
that is what my image looks like.
Yep.
And that judge isn't going to take the time to get to know who I am. He
Nope.
doesn't care about that.
He does
First
not.
impression when I walk in there, I kind of look like a punk.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's an unfortunate truth. People need to be cognizant of the image they're presenting. And I talked about it on the show. I was like, you need to go in there. You need to be clean cut. Your appearance needs to be good. Long sleeve button up shirt at the very least, preferably a suit jacket.
Hmm.
And it needs to cover, if you have tattoos, cover all your tattoos.
Yeah. Yeah. Because
And
you're talking about judges who are predominantly older, right? And
yeah, yeah. Bible Belt South, yeah, especially
and,
here. They
and
don't like seeing people covered in tattoos.
they don't like tattoos because
No.
back in the day, that used to say that you were a criminal, and that's what they associate it with. And we all know that's not true. We all know that.
Right.
And, and people listening to this are going to say, "I ain't doing that," just because they're biased. Listen, I'm telling you right now, you got to play the game. If you want your kids, you
You
got to
got to
play the
play the
game.
game.
Yeah, it is what it is. You're going to get judged on your appearance. It's the same as if me and you were at a bar and we're looking for a female, right? What are we judging that person on if we want to talk to them or not? It's their appearance.
Yeah.
It's the
Their
same thing.
parents.
Every single human has it. You're going to make your first opinion based on somebody's appearance. Is it right? No,
Actually,
but we all do it. We all do it.
it's human nature.
Yep. Yep.
And it's very true. 100%. Just like whenever I went before the judge last time, I had some tattoos. I wasn't as heavily tattooed as I am now, but I did have, big holes in my ears back then. And, even for those, I took my gauges out or I put in like flesh tone ones that were very because my gauges were way smaller back then. So I
Yeah.
was able to put something in that matched my skin tone, so it didn't look like I had them. And I took my piercings out and I came in, dressed for success, well
Yeah.
kept, well cut. And that's an important part of court. You
It
can't
is.
come in there looking like a delinquent. You can't come in there looking like you don't take care of yourself. That's a big one too. You can't come in there looking trashy and like you don't know how to take care
Mhm.
of yourself. Because how are they going to sit there and say, "Oh, this man looks like a great candidate to take care of these children, but he looks
Yeah.
like trash"? That's not
Yeah.
how that works.
At minimum, you need to go in there with a button-up shirt, some slacks, a belt, some nice dress shoes, comb your hair. I'm not saying that you got to shave. I don't shave my beard, but you need to make sure it's groomed, right? Um,
Right.
make sure your hair's combed, all that stuff. Just look
Yeah.
presentable.
And for the love of God, iron your shirt.
Yeah, just iron your shirt. That's all it is, and your pants.
You can always tell when somebody throws it through the dryer and then gets it out.
Yeah,
It is not the same as a crisp iron shirt.
dude,
Use a little starch, iron that thing.
I can't tell you how many parents have showed up in t-shirts.
I
You know,
couldn't be me.
just showing up in a t-shirt, and it looks bad, guys. You're already fighting an uphill battle. You're already fighting an
Yeah,
uphill battle. Don't make it harder. Get you a nice dress shirt. I don't care if you gotta go to Goodwill or a thrift shop or borrow one, whatever you gotta do. Just have a nice dress shirt, a nice pair of slacks.
100%. Well, man, unfortunately, I have to get ready for work, so I
You're
would
good.
really like to do this again. I feel like
Yeah.
there's a lot more conversations that we need to have.
Oh, dude, we could be on here for 12 hours straight, and I really
Easy.
appreciate you reaching out and having me on here, man. That's it's been great. I enjoy your content. I enjoy everything that you're doing here, and I believe in it. Thank you so much for having me on here.
Yeah, and dude, your content's awesome for everyone. He's present father. He's on TikTok, all the socials. You can find, like he said, his book is in his showcase, and he has an awesome content. Please go show him some love. I'll link his stuff in the bio and the episode description.
Thanks, man.
As always, I will upload everything on Spotify, and I'll send out the link to everything. And I really can't wait to do this again. This is awesome.
All right, man. Thank you very much. You have a great day.
You too.
All right.